Hi, I'm Janice Switlo, and in an earlier episode I spoke about the need for strength and unity, and that is in terms of an effort to gain international respect. You need to show that unity and you show that strength. And I want to provide some encouragement by quoting a discussion of how Red Cloud conducted himself, and hopefully provide some encouragement in terms of the efforts underway. So despite the dishonesty of many of the American agents at the reservation, Red Cloud remained faithful to his treaty promises. In spite of suffering, privation, and thefts of every description, Red Cloud and his people kept their faith. Quote, "How can you expect us to take the white man's road when you move us before we have time to plant and grow corn?" he complained, "to clear the ground and raise cattle." In 1874, he was part of a delegation of Native Americans that went to Washington, where they were flattered and promised many things. Meanwhile, it had been decided by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs to remove the Sioux to the Missouri River, where some good soil assured corn and wheat. Red Cloud and Spotted Tail begged that they not be sent there, for whiskey was brought up the river and sold to their young men. In May, the Commissioner of Indian Affairs himself went to meet with them. When he rose to speak, Chief Spotted Tail jumped to his feet and walked toward him, waving in his hand the paper containing the promise of the government to return them to White Clay Creek instead of sending them to the Missouri River. Quote, "All the men who come from Washington are liars," he began, "and the bald-headed ones are the worst of all. I don't want to hear one word from you. You are a bald-headed old liar. You have but one thing to do here, and that is to give an order for us to return to White Clay Creek. Here are your written words, and if you don't give this order and everything here is not on wheels inside of 10 days, I'll order my young men to tear down and burn everything in this part of the country. I don't want to hear anything more from you, and I've got nothing more to say to you." End of quote. He turned his back on the commissioner and walked away. Now, such language would not have been accepted from unarmed and helpless Native Americans. But when it came from a chief with 4,000 armed warriors at his back, it was another affair altogether. The order was written. In less than 10 days, everything was, quote, "on wheels," end of quote, and the whole body of the Sioux on the move to the country they had indicated, and the Secretary of the Interior wrote naively in his report, quote, "The Indians were found to be quite determined to move westward, and the promise of the government in that respect was faithfully kept," end of quote. So, quoting authority, reminding of promises, saying this is what you've written, this is what's in place, you need to comply with that. That's when we're talking about treaties. And when Her Majesty does not have permissions by treaty to be someplace, and companies have no ability to take up, and provinces have no ability to issue permits, and they're all acting under a mere bare assertion of sovereignty. And Her Majesty is bound by the duty of fairness to engage in treaty making. And the nations, through their representatives, especially the elders, now ancestors, have on record many, many times before the Trudeau Watch Me Solve the Indian Problem program. Before that, they have on fact demanding treaties, demanding the Crown live up to the requirements of her, of which her governments are bound. So think about how people have conducted themselves in the past. Think about when you are going under Section 35 or going under the Canadian government under these various agreements. Is that going to give you the leverage you need when you're saying, we're not a nation, our ancestors were mere beasts of the field? We agree doctrine of discovery applies because all of this is based on that. And that the mere bare assertion of a stranger coming to our lands is enough. Yes, you have it, take it. That's not binding in law. But if you believe it and you abandon it and you act as if you agree with that, then it does become law. Take care out there.